Alright, this is a short tutorial on how to get facial recognition working on a Mac using Python and opencv, as well as how to interface it with an Arduino using a serial connection. So to get started, you're going to want to install xcode, and you're going to do that through the terminal. So all these commands will be in the description, and you can just copy and paste them over. So here it's telling me I already have it installed, but you're going to do that first, and then you're going to run this command to install brew. This is going to be used to install some of the other things you're going to need. It's going to ask you to put in your password. And then I already have it installed, so I'm going to import it here, but you would click return to run through the install. Next you're going to want to install Python, and you can either run this command using brew, which you just installed, or you can just download it from the Python website, and I would recommend doing this, that way you get the Python IDE with it, because you're going to need that later. Next you're going to want to install opencv, and you're going to use pip3 to install that. So come back to your terminal. It's telling me I already have it, so it'll install there. And then you're going to want to check that that worked. So what you're going to do is, now that you have Python installed, you'll type Python 3 into the command line, and that'll put you in a Python environment inside your terminal. And then you're going to import cv2. And then you're going to want to check the version. And if this just returns a number and not an error, then it's successfully installed. So you're going to do exit and parentheses, or open and end parentheses, and that'll leave the Python environment, put you back in your terminal. Now you're going to need to install a bunch of stuff to get the facial recognition package to work. And some of these are pip3 and some of them are brew install. So you're just going to run through all of these in your terminal, saying you already have it. And then this one is brew install instead of pip. And some of these might take a while, so if it seems like it's going really slow, then it's not like crashed or anything, it just takes some time. Alright, so that's finished. I'm gonna run this one too. It's saying I already have it, so it's asking if I want to reinstall it, which I don't. And then this is the last thing you need to install. This is the facial recognition package itself. So again, it's saying I already have it. So the next thing, I'll include this code in the description. This is a sample code, which will recognize a face, and it'll like overlay the name that you assign to that face on the webcam or the display. So you can use this just to test to make sure everything's working, but you're probably going to want to modify it for whatever you need it for. So you'll just copy this, and then you can just use the default Python IDE idle, which should come when you download Python if you download it from the website, and you just copy and paste that in here. So now you're going to want to save this somewhere where you know where it is. So I'm just going to save it on a file on my desktop. And I'll save it as just video.py. And now that's here. So if you want to just run this and test this, what you're going to need to do is within this is going to open an xcode now because I have that installed. But it should open an idle, which is what you just had in it for you. In here, you're going to look, the code is preset up to recognize Obama and Biden. That doesn't necessarily really matter if you put their faces in the file, but what you're going to need to do is just make sure that you have whatever face you want to recognize as a JPEG file as the same name that it is here in the code. So if I wanted it to recognize Obama, then I'd put a picture of Obama, a JPG, same one as it is here in the code, and then you're going to make sure that these match the names like here. So if you want to add a new face, just essentially copy and paste one of these. Anywhere it says, Obama or Biden, replace that with the name you want, and then do that here and here, and it'll work. So the next thing you're going to want to do if you want to get this to work with an Arduino is you're going to want to install PySerial. Link to this website here, which is a pretty simple tutorial on how to just get a simple Python code running with Arduino, but you can work with what it has here to get it to do exactly what you want to do. So to install it, all you're going to do is run pip3 install PySerial in the terminal. That'll install it there. And then I'll show you quickly the modified code that I made for my project, and just kind of give you some information on what I did. Alright, so I sort of sectioned off here what's different from the original one. So this is all relevant to the PySerial connection. And what is important here is this connection with the computer. It's here and here. So to figure out what port you're using, you're going to go to your Arduino IDE. If you don't already have that installed, then include a link of where you can install that as well. And you're going to go to Tools. You're going to make sure you have whatever board you're using selected, and then right here, it's not showing it right now because I don't have an Arduino plugged in, but it'll have a port that your Arduino is plugged into on your computer. So you're going to take that. If it's plugged directly into your computer, then you probably won't have something this long. It should just say like COM5. But if you're using a like USB modem or any kind of USB hub, then it might be something longer. So you're going to want to put that in exactly as it shows here. And you're going to do that right here and right here. And then you're also going to pick your bit rate here and make sure that's the same here. So what you're going to want to modify if you want to send, for the original code, it'll just kind of show you like a name under the face, and that's kind of cool, but it's not really helpful if you want to send over like a face recognized or no face recognized for the Arduino to actually do something based on what the Python code is doing. So what you're going to want to use is the Arduino write command, and then bytes, the number you want to send in quotations, and then UTF-8. And this isn't actually going to send the number 1, but it's going to encode it in UTF-8 and give you that number. So you'll have to see what you're receiving there and then adjust your Arduino code as needed. On the Arduino code side, what you're going to want to do is begin your serial connection instead of timeout. Make sure this is the same as what you have in your Python code. And then you're going to put this section of code in your void loop. And this is going to be writing whatever number you're receiving from the Python code to the variable. Here it's x, it could be any variable you want, or you could have multiple variables. And then it's going to print it. That's optional, but it's helpful to see what number it's receiving. In this case, 1 after being encoded was 49, so any kind of thing that I want it to do when it receives a 1 is going to be 49 in the Arduino code. Alright, so when you want to run your code, first thing you need to do is navigate to where your file is stored. So if you put it on your desktop, you're going to do cd desktop, and then cd whichever your file is in, and then Python 3 to show that you want to run it in Python, and then the name of your file that is actually the Python script. And you're going to run that, and this is giving me an error because I don't have the Arduino plugged in, so it can't establish a serial connection, but if you have everything set up correctly, then this should run. So that concludes pretty much everything. I'll be sure to include all these steps here with the links, as well as this GitHub code and a link to get the serial communication working. So thanks for watching. Hope this helps you. Alright, so I'm going to give a quick explanation of what each part of this code is actually doing. That way you can decide what parts of it you actually need for your uses. So obviously you're going to need all this, which is just importing the different libraries that you're going to be using. this is essentially defining what faces you want it to recognize, and it's going to analyze the JPEG file that you're using and encode it, and then when it's receiving images later, it'll try to match the face that it's seeing with these encodings that it's getting from the image. This command here is just to begin video capture. Here is where you're just defining the known face encodings, which are created from these lines of code. That way you don't have to reference it against each one you want to do. You can just add them all into this one variable, and it'll match against each different face encoding within this array. If you're using this default code and you want it to display a name, then this is just going to match a name to display with the encoding. You probably won't need this, so you can just get rid of this entirely, unless you want it to display a name. This is just some more variables that are used when actually reading the faces. And this is the main loop here that is going to be processing faces from the frames. So this is getting a frame of video from the capture. This is getting it into the correct format for the facial recognition library to actually analyze it. Same with this. This is finding all the faces within the image it's receiving for the frame. This face names here, you wouldn't need this if you're not using, that's related to this, as well as this. What this is essentially doing is if the face it's getting doesn't match any face encodings that it has, then it's setting the name to unknown. But if you're not using names at all, then this section doesn't matter. What's important for this loop is obviously this here, which is processing the frames, and then this section here. What this part is doing is if there's multiple faces being recognized, then it'll automatically detect the closest face and use that encoding to start matching. This if statement here, this command is matching the face encoding that it just got against the matches array that you defined up here. So here it's setting the name equal to the name defined up here. If you aren't using this, then you're going to want to put within this if statement whatever you want it to do when it has a match. So that can be send a 1 or any kind of command you want it to do when it recognizes the face. And then you're also, if you're not doing the names, you're going to probably want to add an else statement here to just, if it's not recognizing a face, we'll just do else, and then it'll do whatever you want to do if it's not recognizing a face. Here they don't do that because if it's not recognizing a face, the name is unknown here, so it'll print unknown on the face in the video. This is all in relation to displaying the results, so you can get rid of all of this if you're not planning on doing that. This is just displaying the image, which if you're using this, then it'll display like a red box with a name. If you don't do any of this, then this will just show exactly what the webcam is seeing. But that can be helpful if you just want to see if your webcam's working. And then this is just adding a quit button. So if you press Q while it's running, then it'll quit out. And then you're going to want to do these at the very end, which just ends the video capture. So this is breaking the loop, and then these commands will end the video capture.